Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to installment number 2 of SBIFF Film Talk. My name is Audrey Arn. For those of you who don't know that, I'm a programmer here at the Film Festival. And joining us this evening are the 2 filmmakers of the film Trailheads, which was in our program at the 2019, 28, recently in the festival. So we're going to start off by watching a clip, and then we'll get to the Q&A. So please enjoy. Thanks.
Started riding my trike over this little mound of dirt when I was 3, and it never stopped after that.
I mountain bike because it's one of the most fun things I've ever done. You get out into nature, let's see different places, and just the rush you get from it is pretty hard to equal doing other things.
That ability to go out and climb a mountain, and then come back down and enjoy that experience of riding back down.
I like mountain biking because it's just a really good way to get away from my desk and get out into a beautiful place and forget just for a little bit all the things that might be stressing me out at the time.
Nobody really takes it seriously at all. Like it's a pretty goofy bunch of guys. We just like to hang out and have fun, and we're probably like the only 5 people in UCSB that ride mountain bikes like regularly and seriously, so it's good to have a tight-knit group.
It's an awesome adventure. Mountain biking is an awesome adventure.
Yay. So welcome, director of Trailheads, Dani Rodriguez, and producer, Christine Meseer. Hey guys, welcome.
Hi.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. So I'd love to have you just start off by giving us a bit of background about how this film initially was conceived and how you guys came together on this project, and just what that kind of development process was like.
Yeah, so came up with the idea in 2018, a couple months after the Thomas fire, just kind of thinking of what were some like lasting effects of the fire that were still like just there in Santa Barbara, and thought about something just unique to Santa Barbara, but also on a grand scale. So I came to just the trails. It was a group that I also like had connections to, so I knew a lot of the bikers that were in the film. And so it was kind of just a little avenue there to be able to look at this bigger issue of just trail maintenance, trail use, and all of that. Yeah. And then Christine hopped on when I asked her to help me out and made this little project in 3 months. So
We work on projects together in the past, and we just work really well. And it was something that I was passionate about as well, because we were living in Santa Barbara around the time of the Thomas fires and the mudslides. So we definitely were impacted by it and saw the devastation that the fires and the mudslides left. And trail usage was just something that I don't think too many people really thought about or understood the effects that these natural disasters had on them.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. From my perspective as someone who enjoys nature, but is sometimes a little too lazy to get way out there, enjoy those trails. I'm not someone who is familiar with this culture of the trails, of the different groups that utilize them. And so I think you guys with this film did such a great job of introducing us to that world, that it's not just outdoors people, as I would classify them all, but there's individual groups that have tension between them. So can you tell us a bit about kind of what your investigation process, I guess, was, how you went about taking all of that, taking the individual perspectives of these trailheads and incorporating that into your final film?
Yeah, so like I said, like I knew some of the bikers, and they were the first step, just like talking to them and what their experience was like on the trails. And then from there, just reaching out to a lot of the other groups in Santa Barbara, and that's where Christine came in to like help reach out to SBMTV, and which is now Sage Trail Alliance, and then the Montecito Trail Foundation, and even just all the communities that were helping out at the time. So we were able to kind of talk to them about their experience. A lot of it was just word of mouth and like having those conversations with people and asking them what works and what doesn't. Yeah.
And I honestly feel like the tensions between trail usage was something that at least I wasn't even aware of at the time. And through speaking to the mountain bikers and through reaching out to these other organizations, we kind of stumbled into the tensions that lie there. But we also wanted to figure out like why there was a tension there. Like what was it about the trail, like using the trails that had people so fired up? And as like there were moments in the documentary too where you can kind of see how emotionally invested people are. When we went to a couple of the events, and I think that just kind of made us want to dig even further and like figure out like what's going on here.
Yeah, totally. That moment that comes to mind is the, I think it's a town hall meeting, or there's some sort of meeting that I think you kind of get a glimpse into that world. And did you, over the process of filming this, did you see any of that? Did you see kind of firsthand that collaboration and a little bit of the coming togetherness of these groups as they all had to contend with the fact that the Thomas Fire had completely devastated these trails so that no one could use them? So being there filming that, can you tell us a bit about what you sort of witnessed about the collaboration and the sort of coming together for the greater good?
Yeah, I think that meeting that we showed was one of the best examples of that. You have the Montecito Trail Foundation, which would be like our hikers or equestrians, and then the Santa Barbara Mountain Bike Volunteers, which at the time were just more typically mountain bikers, and just seeing them really collaborate on like just going from talk to talk of what they want to do and just work together on just the best practice to be able to make these trails like passable and usable. So it was really cool to be able to see that there definitely was some tensions at some point with some of the crowd, but it really was just about collaboration. And that was like the end goal that we wanted to highlight with the film too, is at the end of the day, it's people who really just love their trails, and being able to like come together after a tragedy is like the best possible outcome.
Right. Yeah. Now I'd love to talk about the artistry of the film and just the visuals. It's so stunning, and I feel like you really let the beauty of Santa Barbara and the beauty of these natural landscapes kind of highlight the whole story. And I would imagine that in capturing that, in portraying that, in pulling off what you did, there must have been quite a bit of hiking that you did yourself, and I would imagine. So can you talk a bit about kind of the nitty gritty of going out there and getting some of these incredible shots?
Can I just say that, not joking, when blood, sweat, and tears went into this film shoot. Yeah, grueling hours of being on mountainsides, lugging all of our gear, getting up there, getting the shots that we needed. There were quite a few moments where we were just like, okay, what is happening to our crew? Like, we're slowly falling apart. But
yeah, we had spider bites, bug bites, poison ivy. Someone almost broke their collarbone. Like, it was
a lot.
I have to really like give it to the crew because they were incredible. I think I had a vision, and that was like, okay, I want to hike a mile out with all our gear because there's a specific spot that I want to get to and get a shot there, and they were all down for it, whether it was poison ivy, accidentally getting hurt. Like, I think one of the cameras got splashed with water in that water shot. it was, yeah, there were moments.
You could tell that the crew had, like, we all had our hearts in the right place, and we were all working towards Dani's vision, and we all wanted to see it come to life. So everyone was willing to put like our best positive attitudes forward, regardless of the injuries and the tears and the sweating and all of that. But we made it work.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Dani, can you tell us a bit about, you said you had this really clear vision and you had these specific spots in mind. Can you tell us about like the significance of some of the places you chose and what, you know, as someone, again, I'm not a trail, I'm like outing myself as a lazy person here, but I don't get out on the trails much. I don't have the same connection, but I know a lot of people tuning in do, as I'm sure you learned through this film getting out there, that it really speaks to this community. So could you tell us a bit about, you know, if that was in your mind at all, capturing the, are there certain trails or views that are sacred to the trail communities, and was that at all part of your thinking?
Yeah, definitely. So there were like 3 main locations that we used to kind of highlight just the trails. One of them, I guess the Devastation Trail, would be Cold Springs. And that's when one of the ones that was just impacted the hardest by the mudslides and Thomas Fire. So we really wanted to use that and juxtapose that with Escacita Trail, which goes up to like Inspiration Point. And a lot of people in Santa Barbara use that. It's like one of the most like traffic trails that we have. And that was also the trail when we did the State Trails Day shoot. That was the one that they were fixing at the same time, which was great timing. So we were able to show them fixing the trail, and then part of hiking a mile out to these specific spots was showing the mountain bikers on those same spots afterwards to show like, here they did a little bend or they smoothed out this rock section, and then you can see just the ease of the use afterwards. And then the last one we did was Ealing's Park, which a lot of mountain bikers love to use as well, and just has a great landscape of Santa Barbara. So it was cool to be able to like use those different locations for just highlighting what we have to offer as a community.
Right. Yeah, going back to some of the other footage, you have other media in there that was not shot originally by your crew, and you know, I guess going back to a little bit what you said about the greater message of like trails and coming together, and taking that greater trail community, but narrowing your focus into Santa Barbara. Can you speak a bit about how you kind of took that greater idea and even worked with news footage from outside the Santa Barbara area and then related that back to the Santa Barbara story?
Yeah, so that was definitely a part that we wanted to include to show that it's not just a Santa Barbara story. There are like different trails within California. Even one of the news footage clips that we used was in Marin County, which is typically like considered the like birthplace, as it says, like the birthplace of mountain biking. So we wanted to show that even in the places that have embraced mountain biking so much, there can still be tension between who gets to use it and the best way to use it. And then luckily, like Santa Barbara, who also has embraced mountain biking, has started with or created this Bell program that has just extended to a lot of other places all over the country now that just help ease some of that tension. So that way hikers, anyone walking the trails, or even like people on horses on the trails, they can get notified that a bike is coming around and they can hop out of the way or get out of the way safely. So that was something, just being able to use the footage, but then we wanted to drop back on this story here specifically, and just with luckily Santa Barbara had just a great background and implemented a cool program that just got used everywhere.
Yeah, Christina, as a producer, can you speak to maybe your involvement? I know it can be a process getting a hold of that footage. Was there anything you were trying to get a hold of, or you were hoping to get that wasn't footage that you had shot, but you wanted to include the film, that was a particular challenge to get a hold of or get permission to use, or was there anything that didn't make it in that you were hoping would?
Honestly, everyone that we had encountered, all of like our every time we were there to seek information out about just trail usage or anyone involved in utilizing and using the trail, or even footage from like the disaster, kind of the mudslides and all of that, everyone was so willing and open to work with us. Once they found out like what we were doing, everyone just came in with open arms of information, and they're like, whatever you need, we're here for you guys. We're so inspired and here for you guys to tell this story, that we pretty much had a lot of stuff at our fingertips. It was pretty cool to see how willing the community was wanting to work with us.
Definitely.
That's awesome. So as far as the status of the trails now, do you have any information or any insight as to what the progress has been since Trailheads, since you filmed there? And if you have been out there yourself, is there anything that, have you noticed any sort of impact that the current pandemic we're all living under, the very reason we're on Zoom right now, how that might have impacted the situation at all? Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, luckily things are still moving along smoothly. So Sage Trail Alliance has been great, even just following the Thomas Fire. Before the pandemic, they have been working tirelessly to be able to continue to just keep up the trails. Not everything is just like disaster related, but there's so much maintenance that has to go into just normal everyday use. And then we've also, the trails, people are using them a lot more. I think with the pandemic, people want to get outside, and everything that I've seen when I've been on them has just been super nice. People wearing masks or carrying them along and just making sure to put them on when people are nearby. All the interactions between like mountain bikers, hikers, all of that have been super nice. So it's good to see that like people are using them safely, especially in the middle of a pandemic, and just more upkeep and all the help that you can get.
That's awesome. So last thing I'll bring up, if you have any thoughts on this, but what I particularly really like about your film, and what I think you've done really well, is, of course, it's stunning. It looks so good. I mean, like I said before, you let the beauty of Santa Barbara kind of shine through in this project. But again, going back to how you took these greater themes and these greater ideas that are specific to the trail community, but also kind of speak to greater ideas about just working together and cohabiting places where there's different groups and different interests, and you've taken those greater ideas and made it about this community, which I think is really something that's overlooked. As we're gauchos, together, so we know the film school experience and how the tendency for those studying film is to just get, is the Hollywood dream, and going to Hollywood immediately. But I think what you've shown here is that there's a really important function that community filmmaking has, and that local stories, I feel like there's so much talk about in relation to like local governments now, hey, vote, look at your local representatives. There's a lot of push for that. And I feel like that kind of works with filmmaking as well, in a way where it's like, look at what's around you, look at the stories that are in your community, because they have arguably equal impact as the greater stories. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts about that, if that is something you thought about with this or with future projects, or if that's just me, kind of thinking out loud. That's cool too.
Yeah, no, I just think it's one of those things where like, if we're living here, like we live in Santa Barbara, like why would we not want to bring focus to things that affect our community, that we're in at the moment? Not just that, but Dani, myself, like a lot of our, people that we know, we use those trails. We're on them. We're Santa Barbara, everyone enjoys the outdoors. So why not focus on something that is literally in our backyard, that we have the ability to change and bring light to, and show people that, hey, if we want to keep Santa Barbara as beautiful as it is, like we need to be aware that we have the ability to help in that and to maintain it and to keep it beautiful and to have these things to pass down.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we've seen such a like wonderful reaction from a bunch of Santa Barbara locals, just with their use of the trails and just enjoying our film. And so that has been like such a huge part. Is not only is it great to like tell the local story, but there's just such a wonderful reaction from people who use those trails, not just like us, but like just, yeah, it's awesome to be a part of.
So then, do you have any kind of parting words of wisdom that you, maybe things that you learned through this process of taking what you learned in film school and kind of your artistic sensibilities and taking that skill set and using it in this way? Was there anything that you feel like you can pass on or you wish someone had told you going into the project? Any thoughts on that?
Oh, wow. No, it's all good. That's just a big question. I think it was, especially this film. I mean, we made the entire thing in 3 months. So it was a rush to hit our deadline and a lot of, like we said, blood, sweat, and tears along the way. So I think just the biggest thing for me that I learned was just find your story and stick to that. And because there were definitely points where I veered away from what the original goal was, but at the end of the day, like brought it back. Even that like first opening sequence that we showed at the beginning of the interview here, like that was in my pitch. Like that was in my head when I pitched it. Like the first 60 seconds is going to be this long bike shot, and you're going to start with just the like bell and the like wheels of the bike, and then you go on and get further and further and start to see the trails. And I wanted that to be like a core part of the story. And so just find your story, stick with it, even if you have to re-edit the entire film in 2 weeks. It's fine.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, like, yeah, dream it and do it. You can do it. Just, you know, let your passion build that fire and find people that are willing to make that story happen with you. But you can do it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining, for sharing your film with us, for chatting. Hope you're faring well during all the craziness that, again, we're all in together. So let's be friends. And thank you everyone for joining. We really miss seeing you in person, but are glad to be offering this platform for you. And please continue to tune in. We'll be back next week with another episode of Film Talk. And yeah, well, I think that's it. That does it for round 2 of Film Talk. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.